Caitlin Clark, who has 8 points and 3 assists as Stewart sets the screen on Clark. Stewart now guarded by Clark. Stewart using her side. Clark being guarded by Thomas, who takes it away. Here's Harris, and Clark's going to foul Harris. Will they call it a transition take foul? They will, and now Clark gets a T in addition. That is an unbelievably costly sequence from Caitlin Clark. Turns it over, then gives a transition take foul. Let's take a look. And
yeah, okay. Certainly deserve the technical.
I mean, I watched Caitlin Clark check out of last night's game, I think for the final time. She looked pissed, Sue. She looked livid. You know, like she was like just barely slapping the hands of her coach and teammates. She looked really angry.
Yeah, you have to remember these two teams are like two of the best in the league. Like they're up there with the best of them. So I think, you know, you're getting to play against some of the best players in the world. You know, they're going to be physical. Like I'm getting face guarded. I'm getting picked up 94 feet. Like it's my second game. Like, so I think it's just a learning process. Like they're not going to let it be easy for me.
Caitlin Clark's turbulent rookie season started off as only it could for her, as an absolute whirlwind. The WNBA, for whatever reason, thought it would be a good idea to put their new supernova star through the gauntlet, having her play against some of the best teams in the association right off the bat. And it wasn't just that it was the best teams, but they had to play these games with crazy turnarounds where they ended up doing things like playing 11 games in 20 days. You had a couple weeks where they would play 4 games in 1 week.
A couple of times, but have you ever played 11 games in 19 days, and now that you're in the middle of it, how does it actually feel?
Maybe when I was 13 years old.
In AU.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that. But I mean, I feel like, honestly, that off day that we had when we came back feels like heaven. And so it's just better that we got that little break.
It's been a week. What's it felt like to you? Has it all kind of been a blur at this point?
You mean all the games every other day against the top teams in the league? Yeah.
Pressure of national TV, everything.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? Like, we're owning it. I see improvement every day. They're willing to learn and working together to get better as a team, which is hard to do when you get in practice.
I swear it felt like from the first game that Caitlin Clark was immediately thrusted into not just one playoff series, but 2 of them, as she would be matched up with 2 of the better teams in such short notice, the Connecticut Sun and the New York Liberty. Now, a lot of reasons for why the WNBA had made the Indiana Fever schedule like this, and the reason ranged from because of how the Olympic year impacted the schedule to how the WNBA wanted to front load the Fever schedule so they could show off all of the best teams in the league. Which, I don't know, that still kind of confuses me, because when you want the new fans being brought in to stick around, I just felt like banking on that as a league could have derailed the season if Clark's fandom wasn't as rock solid as it has proven to be. It is one of those issues that people complain about with how the WNBA is handling Clark, but Caitlin's brand may be at that point where it's too big to fail stage, barring something that's super cataclysmic. But nonetheless, that's the direction they went, and it was absolutely brutal for the Fever and Caitlin Clark in particular. You had her in the first matchup of the season matched up against the veteran and tough-nosed, gritty Connecticut Sun, anchored by Alyssa Thomas's two-way play and leadership. It was clear they were not going to take it easy on her, and that's kind of been the theme. Like, yes, you are supposed to play hard defense on everyone, but this matchup for Clark kind of set the tone for how she would be guarded for the entirety of her rookie campaign. Obviously, Dejanay Carrington would draw the initial assignment, and they would go on to have more of a one-sided run-ins later on in the season, but the message was clear. Do not let Caitlin Clark get her game off on you. Watching that Connecticut Sun game, that was one of the few times Caitlin looked mortal in a very long time. She wound up finishing with 10 turnovers in that game, and as the primary creator of this team, the team went as she went, and clearly she went nowhere, so the Fever offense was very limited and choppy in their execution, and the Sun would pummel them, honestly.
Joined now by WNBA analyst Tamika Nurse. And Tamika, Diana Taurasi said leading into this WNBA season that Caitlin Clark had a reality check coming towards her. Did you see some nerves in Clark's pro debut, and what were your takeaways?
I think you saw Caitlin come out a little bit nervous in the beginning of this game. She had 10 turnovers in this game. That's the most ever in a career debut, so she won't be happy with that. And some of that you can see in the way she was playing. Aaliyah Boston didn't help her out a lot this evening. The game looked a little bit fast for her. She missed a lot of shots that she doesn't necessarily miss. she did settle in that second half and was able to put up 20 points still. So I think what you saw was an up and down night for Caitlin. Hopefully what happens next is a lot better than what we just saw for her today. I think she'd want to play better too.
Absolutely. Up and down debut. Tons of hype, obviously, as we know, surrounding Caitlin Clark. She has the 4th best odds to win MVP. Yeah. I'm not talking Rookie of the Year. No. I'm talking MVP. Yeah. Is it maybe time to alter the expectations of what Caitlin Clark is going to be in her rookie year?
I think there was a lot of pressure on Caitlin coming in. We did look at her at this generational talent that was going to change the game. And I'm not saying that she can't do that. She still has a long way to go to get that done. But picking her to be an MVP in the first season, that's a lot of pressure for her to take on. So I think we need to scale back the expectations a little bit. I think we need to let Caitlin Clark play. I think we need to know that her debut came against one of the best defenses in all of the WNBA. But she's also going to see the New York Liberty very soon, which can be another tough test. I think we need to take this season as it comes and let her kind of settle in and get comfort with her teammates and give her the ability to grow in this game.
Caitlin, I think that there was 10 more fouls today than when you guys previously played Los Angeles. It seemed like McDonald was especially, I guess, chippy and vocal today. Were you expecting that coming in?
Yeah, I think everybody's physical with me. They get away with things that, probably other people don't get away with. And it's tough, but that's just the fact of the matter. Is like, this is a very physical game. But yeah, I mean, you're going to get pressured. That's just professional basketball. So I think it is what it is, honestly.
Is that something that you expected going into the league? You said that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, that brung out the critics and those that don't like her, but obviously it was just overreactions. But this Hell Initiation Month would continue on where they had to face the Liberty twice before facing the Sun again. They go on to play the Seattle Storm a few times, Chicago Sky once, in which they won. The Liberty, who wound up winning it all, was played 3 times in this stretch. 3 times. They also played the Sparks twice, in which they would get their other lone win, which was also their first one, where they would go on a West Coast trip and pick up the win in Los Angeles before having to board the flight that night and play Las Vegas that next day on a back-to-back. Of course, they lost that one. So it's safe to say the Aces absolutely handled the Fever, and this was still a part of the tone setting. And while there may not have been Dejanay Carrington applying full court pressure, it was Jackie Young doing it. And here's where we begin to see a theme where all of the best teams are putting their best wing defenders on Caitlin Clark. Not just guards, but their strongest, quickest, or tallest wings have to guard her. We've seen Benaja Laney-Hamilton and Leone Fibich draw the assignment on the Liberty, Carrington and Bonner on the Sun, Jackie Young on the Aces, Jordan Horston and Vivians on the Storm, Caleb McBride on the Lynx. This tough assignment had the Fever starting the season 2-9, and Caitlin herself was averaging about 16 points and 6 assists, but she was doing that with about 5 turnovers on about 36% from the field and under 30% from the 3-point line. All of this would set the tone about the start of her season, where at one point she was considered the #1 in the Rookie of the Year talks, to all of a sudden it being a race because of this brutal start caused by the crazy scheduling, and then you had the Olympic talks.
Is there any part of you, to their point, that you feel like this could actually, one, hurt Caitlin Clark because she's not in a position to succeed, and also hurts the integrity of the game in women's basketball if people are getting spots when they're undeserving? If you don't want to go, Shannon can take it.
I'll take it. I'll look at it like this, Molly. What better way is to get chemistry is to have Caitlin Clark. So these women, because we didn't talk about the Christine Brennan report that she had in USA Today, if I'm not mistaken, and talking about how some of the vets might have felt had Caitlin Clark not got the minutes that many people think she deserves. Think about the narratives and the questions. Narratives and questions are because we have people watching. Tell me the time that we've led the show that we've had this many conversations, a 30-minute block, a 40-minute block last week, talking about the WNBA. And we're talking about it for one reason. Let's not pretend ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves, guys. We want the integrity of the game, but if you want it to grow, you better have your most marketable players.
So Melo, give me your honest thing, right? Because this is the first time in this conversation that I have kind of sat in the middle. I'm like, the women's team has been so dominant. The 12th player was not going to make a difference.
Yeah, no.
But I totally respect merit and that being people's career aspiration and dream.
Yes.
And if I seen somebody get the nod just off of marketing and following, I would feel a type of way too.
Yeah.
So for you, right, knowing how competitive that is, in Caitlin's case, she hasn't been able to attend the camps and stuff. She's playing in college still, right? So she doesn't have that camaraderie. Do you think it was a miss by Team USA?
I think to the word that you use, marketing.
Okay. Oh,
like your favorite word. Your favorite word, right?
Caitlin, what was your reaction when you saw the USA team yesterday, the roster come out?
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the girls that are on the team. I know it's the most competitive team in the world, and I know it could have gone either way of me being on the team, me not being on the team. So, I'm excited for them. I'm going to be rooting them on to win gold. I was a kid that grew up watching the Olympics, so it'll be fun to watch them.
What was your level of disappointment not hearing your name on the roster?
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. It's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that, and hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
So in early June, it was decided that Caitlin Clark would be left off of the Olympic team, and everyone went wild with their thoughts. From people saying she deserved to be on it, to people saying she didn't, to people saying she didn't, but she should have been on there anyways because marketing. I'm not here to say what is true, but there were players on that team at her position that she definitely was better than, but the early stretch is where it was decided that she wouldn't be included. Could it have been that some of the players on the team didn't want her on it? It certainly is possible, because that was a talking point that came out about how players didn't want to have to deal with her fan base, which is why they didn't want her on the team. And at first, that sounded outrageous, but towards the end of the season, we saw more and more about how there was merit to that exact talking point. You also had the reigning MVP that also talked about how playing in Indiana made her feel uncomfortable, or like something was about to pop off, as she put it.
Dreaded being in Indiana, not because like the city or nothing. I was just like, I don't want no to pop off. She continued on and said, it's like that feeling of constantly having that guard up, constantly having to just protect yourself and being ready to take the high road. This year we see it more than ever, and it sucks, and I just hope it dies down. We're starting to lose the beauty of the game of basketball. That's what I hate the most about it. These folks going crazy.
We saw various WNBA media figures kind of paint that narrative, and Brittany Garner spoke out on it as well. To a certain extent, there is some truth into what they are saying, although I believe they may be framing it in the wrong way, in a sense that sometimes fans become a little too invested in these players to the point where they think it is up to them to defend their favorite players' honor or attack players on social media on their favorite players' behalf, which shouldn't be the case, just from a practical perspective, because no one should be that invested in public figures that much when you should have your own life that you could be more focused on, my honest opinion. But the other part of this is that Caitlin Clark is a superstar. She can and she should handle her own battles on the court. That is what is going to make her a legend. They're being able to go out there on the court and dominate anyone that disrespects her, and then getting dominated is what will put them in their place, not the fans. We've all heard the stories of Michael Jordan feeling disrespected and then taking it personal on his way to dominating his opponent. I believe Caitlin has that same ability, and that is the part that us as fans are supposed to enjoy, not involve ourselves into. Caitlin Clark had actually begun to do this last season with teams such as the Chicago Sky, the Seattle Storm, the Phoenix Mercury, and the Connecticut Sun. Each of these teams had players that slighted Clark in one way or another, whether it was comments that Diana Taurasi made or Jewel Lloyd.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about our rookies. Nika's been great. She's been awesome, putting her work in. I think our Jordan has been phenomenal too, her second year of her growth. Our focus is our team and what we need to do as a community to be better. So I feel like what this group has in a locker room has made us better. And that's the biggest importance for us is focusing on our personnel and what we need to do to, get things going.
Or the antics of Dejanay Carrington or Kennedy Carter. She had the opportunity to enact revenge by either having big games against them or winning a critical game against said team, like against the Sun or the Storm, or just outright dominate the season series like she did against the Mercury and the Sky. Following her Olympic snub, she came out on fire, and we saw her torch the defense of the Mercury as they really had no answer for her truly. With the Sky, they hosted Clark for Barbie night with Shaq in attendance, and it was over before it started because Clark just went ballistic. and had what I think was her best game of the season, finishing with 31-12. Her still hot would go on to finally beat the Storm and the Sun in 2 games, where Lexi Hull absolutely went off, hitting her threes at a very high rate, and Clark even broke the assist record in the game against the Storm. And you could see it on their face how angry this veteran Storm was to lose to what is supposed to be an inexperienced team with an overhyped rookie.
Staying confident and staying aggressive, that's what I tell myself, but I thought they played really good defense to start on us, and then when we kind of got into a flow and played a little bit more in transition, we were a lot more successful, and then obviously Lex was amazing. I don't know if we missed a shot in the fourth quarter.
I feel like every time we watch you play basketball, you're breaking another record. Today, it was the season record of assists for Tisha Penichero. What does it mean to you to pass a legend like that?
Well, Tisha's been a big fan of mine ever since I was in college, and somebody that has always been right there to congratulate me or just be somebody that's offered advice. So to pass somebody like her, I'm just forever thankful that she's been such a legend in our game. But it's super cool, but hopefully there's a lot more of those.
But the way they lost is by selling out on Caitlin Clark. And this goes back to how tough it is and how tough it was for Caitlin to play these veteran teams, because they would throw everything they had at her. And a lot of that was team defense, in which these teams excelled at. This is why it was 2 teams in particular who Caitlin just couldn't really get off on the way I'm sure she would have liked to. In the Connecticut Sun, obviously, and the Las Vegas Aces. With the Aces, she couldn't get a single win against them, making them as the only team that she still hasn't beaten. For Clark to establish herself as a true superstar and alpha dog, she is going to have to start having good games and actually win against the top teams in the league. And not just teams on or below her level, but teams that's obviously ahead of her. When she puts together exceptional games from a production standpoint against the best defenses in the league, then that's when, to me, she's reached true superstar status and is able to win a championship. For these 2 teams in particular, they put 2 great strong defenders on Clark and had them right all the way up the court, or even if ending up their help side responsibility. If Clark is to the respect from the league, and obviously I don't mean being liked, but just being respected, as in players not wanting to poke the bear, then she will have to start dominating these matchups. And to me, that starts with her in the ball screen, more confidently and assertive. She has to get to the point where the things going on in front of her is second nature, and she can begin to look up for help side defenders. Once she gets comfortable with this, and she may be closer to MVP contention than some may realize.